All right, it looks like it's 2:01, so we'll begin. Welcome back to our returning attendees who have been following our series since March 11th. It has been great hearing the feedback that we've been receiving, and I think our loyal attendees are really going to enjoy today's presentation. For our first-time attendees, if you like data, you're definitely in the right spot. Also, if you would like to access our past presentations, please let me know in your survey, and I'll be more than happy to provide you with them. This is the latest real-time data that our NetElixir Intelligence Lab has been collecting, and we are thrilled to share with you all some positive updates that we've been seeing. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our fourth Retail E-commerce COVID-19 Updates webinar. My name is Heather Dessette, and I am NetElixir's Event Marketing Manager. Before we dive into the data, I wanted to quickly go through today's agenda and share with you a little bit about who we are. Our first speaker, Udayan Bose, is going to be walking you through the questions retail marketers have been asking NetElixir. He will review the outbreak's impact on shopper behavior in retail e-commerce and discuss our key observations from the data collected from April 5th through April 18th for today's presentation. Our presentation focuses on the impact that fashion and apparel industries are facing, and we are thrilled to be joined by a fashion and apparel industry leader, Kaki Zell, the co-owner and vice president of Ames Walker, for today's Q&A session. So to give you a little background story about who NetElixir is, at NetElixir, our goal is to help retail brands find and engage high-value customers. We do so through an array of our digital marketing solutions listed here. The real-time data in today's presentation is powered by our proprietary tool, Elixir Insights. Feel free to request a demo in your survey to see how today's data was collected. NetElixir is proud to be premier partners with UPS, Google, Microsoft Bing, and Facebook. And here are some of the amazing clients we have the privilege of working with. As you can see, their industries vary anywhere from food to fashion. Now, let me introduce to you today's speakers. So since the outbreak, NetElixir has been amazed and humbled by the demonstration of American entrepreneurship during these difficult times. We're happy to welcome one such inspiring entrepreneur today for our Q&A, Kaki Zell, the co-owner and vice president of Ames Walker. To go over the data surrounding the outbreak, I am pleased to welcome NetElixir's founder and CEO, Udayan Bose. Welcome, Kaki and Udayan, and thank you for joining us today. Before I pass it along to Udayan, I would like to quickly remind everyone that we have allotted plenty of time at the end of the webinar to answer as many of your questions as we can. You can submit your questions at any time during the presentation using the chat box or via the Q&A button. If you are comfortable discussing offline, you can email us at any time at shareinsights@netelixir.com or easily submit your questions in the survey that will appear on your screen once this presentation concludes. All right, so let's begin. Udayan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Heather. Thanks a lot. First of all, let me start by hoping, I think everyone hopefully is staying safe and you're all doing well. I have started with this slide pretty much since our first webinar on the 11th of March, that this outbreak that we are going through is first and foremost a human tragedy, which is affecting all of us. With really lives at risk, we hope that the conditions improve quickly. The outbreak is also, as we all know, is having a growing impact on the global economy. This presentation is intended to provide the retail industry leaders with a perspective on the evolving situation within the United States, with a very specific focus on retail and implications for their company's marketing programs. As all of us know, the outbreak is moving very quickly, and some of the perspectives in our presentation may fall rapidly out of date. For this presentation, we have been able to aggregate information until April 18th. There is just one slide whereby we have really been able to extend this date range till 21st of April. As we speak, we continue to closely track the category level shopper insights and the e-commerce sales data. And the goal here is to identify any significant trends that may really emerge as the outbreak really evolves. Again, this is one slide that I have used all through. This coronavirus is most definitely the first black swan event of this decade. And it's just exceptionally concerning that the total number of cases just keeps increasing and increasing on a daily basis. As some of you may know, the black swan theory, or the theory of black swans, is essentially used to describe an event that comes as a major surprise that has a massive effect and is often inappropriately rationalized after the fact with the benefit of hindsight. It was actually first proposed by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in his book by Randomness way back in 2001. When we talk about Black Swan event, the industry I really wanted to start today's presentation with is essentially the fashion apparel industry. And as we have known that this outbreak has really been impacting quite substantially the industry. And I start by sharing this search query trend using Google Trends. So if you search for the word dresses, you would probably be able to see the entire trend firsthand yourself. As you can see, effective about the 4th of March, the number of queries or the number of which is essentially an expression of interest in the word dresses has gone down quite dramatically. What was around the 4th of March, around an interest rate of about 100, now is around 25. And understandably, this has really had a massive impact on the overall sales, the number of visits which the apparel industry, the retail companies and the websites are really experiencing. Using our research, we have been able to try to quantify as to how big this impact has been for the fashion apparel industry overall when it comes to online or e-commerce sales as such. This graph essentially is only for the month of April. The first we have taken until the first 21 days essentially. The orange line out here stands for conversion rate. So conversion rate is if 100 people are visiting your site, what is the percentage which are actually purchasing from you? And the blue line stands for the number of visits, the number of people that are visiting your site. So as you can see very clearly, this is a year-on-year comparison. So we are comparing the same dates this year versus last year. And as you can see, for almost all the dates, with the exception of 3 very specific dates, it has been wildly negative. On 9th and the 10th of April, in fact, the conversion rate went way down as much as minus 70%. The visits, the lowest point came around the 8th of April, whereby, as you can see, the visits on that particular day went down by up to 45%. There is one silver lining in this entire thing, though, and that part is, the overall sales as a result of which understandably has gone down by 40%. The silver lining I was talking about very specifically happened last week. It happened between 15th to 17th of April, when we saw a sudden online sales spike. We believe this was driven by the coronavirus stimulus fund checks reaching people. The spike indicates the amount of pent-up demand in this category. Even though people knew that they were staying at home, they were not really going out, they were still willing to spend, thereby leading to an increase in the number of visits, and also, as you can see, a substantial increase in the conversion rates as well. The reason we feel that this is an important indicator, it really shows or signifies the amount of pent-up demand. And we believe that once things get back to normal, this pent-up demand may really lead to a V-shaped recovery curve for the industry. However, there is one report that we have really been following very closely, and that is Mckinsey and Company's the State of Fashion report, which they published. This is updated again on the 1st of April. McKinsey in their report, it's a very extensive report. I would highly recommend that anyone in the apparel industry or anyone just who's interested in data insights probably refer and read these reports. It's about 80 plus pages, but I think it's more than worth it. McKinsey very clearly has mentioned that we expect a period of recovery to be characterized by a continued lull in spending and a decrease in demand across channels. At NetElixir, with all of our humility, we would beg to differ out here. We believe post-pandemic, the fashion apparel category will experience a V-shaped recovery. This would be driven by two things. Two primary factors. The first one is a pent-up demand, and the second is a greater desire for self-expression. I think it's very important for us to understand as to what this overall curve would look like, what this recovery curve would look like from an industry to industry that has been negatively impacted. But while we are talking about a negative impact on the industry, we are also amazed to see how many industries are getting really sort of seeing their overall e-commerce sales go up quite dramatically. Before I sort of move on to discussing more about the research and some of the questions which are underlying, as Heather mentioned, on behalf of the entire NetElixir team, I am very excited to welcome a tremendous entrepreneur, Kaki Zell from Ames Walker. They are in the apparel industry. And Kaki is one of those incredible entrepreneurs that we have been lucky enough at NetElixir. We have been working with them since 2014. It's about 6 years now. And I have been amazed to see the amount of entrepreneurial gusto essentially she demonstrates. She has been able to take a situation that she will explain much more adeptly than I can ever do that. Situation which was really impacting the company bad, and she was able to identify an opportunity and really turn this around into really being a success story. Understandably, there are challenges, and she'll discuss some of them, but the overall upside that they were able to realize at Ames Walker was quite substantial. So again, Kaki, on the behalf of the entire NetElixir community, a big welcome to our webinar. It's absolutely a privilege to really hear it firsthand from an entrepreneur such as you. Let me move on to some of the questions, which I think I would probably be using at more of a thought starters or to start a conversation. And again, as Heather has mentioned, we would really appreciate if you are able to write down or any questions, any thoughts, anything that you have. Please feel free to use the Q&A box on your screen, as well as, or maybe even the chat box as well would work as well. So 5 questions is what I would really essentially try to start the conversation, start this thinking process with. The first question that I have for everyone to think through is, will this outbreak lead to permanent shifts in consumer behavior? It has been proven widely that for habit formation requires a certain number of frequency within a certain span of time. As we are seeing, we are in Princeton, New Jersey, and we have been under the lockdown for a month and a half now. We are already seeing that, at least in my family, I can vouch for it. We are seeing already potential areas where the overall behavior that we have has got changed just in the family members. So I think fundamentally the question is, if once this outbreak stretches on for some more time, would it really lead to permanent shifts in consumer behavior? The second question is, will the new customers continue to shop with us after the pandemic is over? We are seeing a massive surge of new customers for most of the categories. This is new to the website, that this is the first time that they are actually shopping from that particular website. So the fundamental question is, after the pandemic is over, which it definitely will be over sometime very soon, will these customers again go back to what they were sort of used to earlier, or will they continue to shop with us? The third question, which becomes also interesting, something to think about: how should I really be calculating the return on marketing investment when I'm not sure of the lifetime value of the new customers? The lifetime value of the new customers becomes a little complex to calculate, because you don't know as to how long they would stay on with your brand. You don't know as to how many times they would purchase. They are, for most purposes, a very new entity or a new segment that you have been able to win just because of these changes which the pandemic has been able to bring about. This also, to an extent, really sort of impacts the ability to predict by any business, because that sort of goes down quite substantially, just because of the wild fluctuations which are going around in terms of the consumer sentiment as well as the consumer behavior. Really sort of renders it very difficult for marketers to really predict as to not just how next week would be, probably how tomorrow would be in certain cases. But at the same time, the marketers can adapt. They can adapt their marketing mix. They can probably think of a new set of KPIs. And we are seeing time and again, by being nimble, by really referring to the real data, marketers that are able to sort of identify those opportunities, which are very short-lived opportunities. As I showed in the previous slide, as you have seen, those are the 3 days where the spike happened for the fashion apparel and then sort of came down. So marketers that had predicted that would happen when the stimulus check really sort of hits people, effectively were able to plan out and maximize their sales within just that 48-hour timeline. And after that, again, it has sort of dropped back. So that is where it's critical. It's absolutely critical to go ahead and be nimble, use real data, and really anticipate and react to a change or a transition very quickly. In certain cases, and again, Kaki, I think, would be a great case. It's important that marketers probably should be rethinking about their marketing mix as well. When you talk about marketing mix, we are talking about the fundamental, the products. Then you're talking about the pricing. Should the pricing need to change? Then you're talking about the promotions that you are running. Are you doing free shipping with certain order thresholds, or are you doing a free shipping with absolutely no order thresholds? Things like that. And what is the impact on your business profitability? And last but not the least, place as well. What are the channels that you can really depend on, specifically now that the stores across are still closed? How much business can we expect on online? And what are the channels? Would it be search, which is driving a lot of traffic, or would it be Facebook, which is driving a lot of traffic, etc., etc.? And last but not the least, does it mean that you should probably need to think about a new set of KPIs? These KPIs, though, would really need to evolve as this pandemic really progresses and continues. So a lot of those questions, the reason we wanted to present it, because we really want you to start thinking about it. It's very important, because unless and until you will sort of take cognizant of that, how will you really come up with a marketing plan? For this presentation, we have really tried to sort of focus on the real data. We have been, as Heather mentioned, using our tool or our technology called NetElixir Insights. The advantage of having NetElixir Insights is we are able to not just capture real-time data, but we are able to convert this at an extremely high speed into actionable insights. Again, the example of the fashion apparel industry. If the spike is there for just about 48 hours, you really need to move very quickly. And Elixir Insights is a tool which really enables us to do that. So we have been collecting all the data using our tool Elixir Insights, and that's where I think the entire theme of our presentation of the research is: do not make any assumptions, get the real data. Uh, we have been able to segment the overall key elements that were analyzed by the NetElixir Retail Intelligence team into two different compartments. The first one is online sales, where something which is of obvious interest to everyone. What has been the percentage increase so far in the first 18 days, April 1st to April 18th, compared to the same time frame in 2019? The second is conversion rate. Are visitors converting to customers at a higher rate compared to what they were last year during the same time period? The third one is percentage of new orders. What percentage of my overall sales is being driven by new to website shoppers? The second segment is, once we really have the online sales, we also wanted to study as to how are marketers or retail marketers really responding in terms of their advertising strategy or advertising budget. So we really focused on two very specific metrics that we have been tracking. The first one is year-on-year increase in media spend. We wanted to see, are marketers slashing spend, or are they increasing spend, or basically is the spend flat? The second part is we wanted to also see, since we work with a huge number of retail clients, over 100, we wanted to also track as to what is the impact on the cost per click that typically we are able to see post this outbreak. The research overview, we have now broken down this research, since we started pretty early from 9th of February onwards, into 5 different categories. The first period was the beginning. It was 9th of Feb to 22nd of Feb. And the subsequent are again 2-week categories as such. We have very specifically identified or focused on 7 retail categories, where for each of these categories, we work with a larger set of customers. So from which we could anonymously really pull in the data to really collect and analyze our results and find out insights. We compared the daily data from 2020 to 2019 over these, not 4, it should be 5 time periods. And the categories that we analyzed or considered for our research were apparel, home decor, tools and hardware, food, gifting, pet supplies, and home furnishings. It covers a fairly wide range. We had only one essential category, which was food, but rest, as you can see, apparel is fairly a discretionary overall investment or a decision, and that same applies for the other categories as well. So one essential category and the rest is discretionary spending categories. And again, we have used our tool Elixir Insights to do this. So I would want to start by sharing information or actual data of the impact on the e-commerce sales by category. Now let me explain this graph. So you have all the different segments: hardware and tools, pet supplies, home decor, and so on. And these are the 5 different time periods that we considered. So the one lowest for each category, or the one which is sort of the first one to start with, that essentially is effectively the first date range, which was when the outbreak really had started. It was still confined mostly to the Kings County, Washington area, and so on. And the yellow one was essentially the segment which was the first, the first week of April or so on. And then the light blue that you see is the most recent 2-week period, which is essentially the last couple of weeks. effectively. So one of the things which is pretty prominent is the online sales really has continued to increase, and it continues to increase essentially in this part. As you can see, what is very prominent is if you really look at just the food, you would see that food effectively has been constantly increasing on a year-on-year basis. And by the way, these are some pretty massive improvements or increases. It went up to almost about 200%, and then it's jumped to almost about 600% year-on-year increase. Then the last couple of weeks it has fallen down, but still it is close to about 250 or 300% year-on-year increase. You're seeing a massive increases. Now, I think this has been quoted fairly widely by other researchers as well, that food and the grocery has been experiencing some exponential increases, understandably. But what has not been quoted as much and what we felt was very interesting in our research, look at the gifting industry. Gifting also the last blue bar, it has been continuously the year-on-year sales has been increasing to the extent that this blue bar is almost near 100% year-on-year increase. If you look at home furnishings, again, this bar may look small compared to the big, because of this big spike in food. But in home furnishings as well, the increase is not, not low. It is definitely in the about 40 to 50% range. Same applies for home decor, same applies for pet supplies as well. And last but not the least, that applies for hardware and tools also. So overall, I think across businesses, we believe what happened was initially when you had started, understandably, people started with, if you look at again the Maslow's hierarchy and try to understand as to what the consumers valued the most, they started with fundamental needs, basic needs, right? Let me get the essential foods, essential items. That is why the food and grocery experienced a massive increase. And once things have settled down, and I would sort of not really use this word settle down with any lightness, just given the gravity of the situation. But once people had adapted more and accepted this as the new normal, which we believe happened around the first end of March or beginning of April, because a lot of lockdowns were really called between the 20th of, actually 19th of March all the way to the 2nd of April. At that point in time, people had really reconciled or trying to adapt and adjust to the new normal. As a result of this, they started spending on other areas as well. First and foremost, they started spending on gifting. Like last time's presentation, 9th of April presentation, we said that the inspirational gifting is one category which we saw had a massive increase. They also have recently, this has been the last 2 weeks, as you can see from this bar, they have started increasing their spend or spending more on home furnishings as well, home decor as well, pet supplies, hardware and tools. So they are now spending more and more other categories beyond just food and grocery. So something to take cognizance of. Very specifically, I know we have a lot of retailers join us today. So again, based on your category, and if your category is not featured there, since we work with almost all the retail categories, please email us, share insights at NetElixir.com, and we'll most definitely get back to you with very specific insights about your categories. Moving on, this was, I think, one of the most coveted slides, or has been most, really sort of inspired the maximum number of questions from us. So those of you who attended the 26th of March webinar that we have done, our second. So we had said this is the overall online orders growth. At that time, we had till first entire month March. We had seen in March the apparel sales had fallen by about 9%, food had increased by 200%, and so on. And based on this, we had run some models to forecast that in the month of April, the apparel, we believe that because of the pent-up demand, etc., would still grow, but grow by only about 5%. And we felt that the other categories would realize a higher growth. Now, I really wanted to share with all of you as to what was actually the percentage year-on-year increase or growth in sales so far this month. And it's fairly updated data. It's 1st of April to 21st of April. So it is fairly sort of recent data. So the numbers have been incredible. I mean, it has come almost like demolished or destroyed our forecasts in most categories. As you can see, food, we had anticipated or expected or forecasted that the year-on-year growth in sales would be 150%. Currently, we are trending, or when I say currently, the first 21 days, we were at 230%. Gifting, 82%. Home furnishings, 39%. So each and every category, look at pet supplies, 25% now is what we had forecasted, it is 62%. Look at hardware and tools, it is 55%. So across categories, we are seeing an explosion of online orders. Just a quick sort of catch. So this data set essentially is our e-commerce retailers that we are fortunate to work with, and their annual e-commerce revenue range for the retailers considered within these 7 categories is between $20 million annually to $300 million annually. So if you really want to extrapolate it for your particular business and category, I would request that look at your data first and really try to extrapolate with a little bit of a grain of salt. So moving on to the conversion rate for the food category, we are seeing that some amazing spikes happen. I know the food has been a part of our presentation all through, but I really wanted to highlight this because as you can see, around the 17th of April, the conversion rates hit an amazing 10%. The same time, the same day, literally last year, it was about 3%, maybe 3.2%. So overall, we have been seeing some wide fluctuations in terms of conversion rate. So again, when we talked about, you really have to have a strong hold on the overall trends and fluctuations. You really need to approach it using a technology which can really track all of this and then convert this into an actionable insight. So this is the trend, what should you do? That's what would really define your success as a marketer. Talking about conversion rate across other categories, and this was again a slide which we had earlier for the month of March. This slide is very specifically for the month of April. So we have tried to identify as to what have the conversion rates essentially for the month of April 2019, and what are the conversion rate for those same categories for 2020 as well. And as you can see, with the exception of apparel, where it has declined from 2.9% last year in the month of April, or the first 21 days of April, to 1.7%, we are experiencing a substantial increase in conversion rate. What does it mean for marketers? It means that people are more likely to make purchase. The people who are coming to your website are more likely to make a purchase than they were just about a year back. So the propensity of making a purchase has gone up quite substantially. And that is something which we really wanted to present. Again, a disclaimer, this is based on just our data set. So please really use this as an indicative reference, not an absolute reference. Moving on, we wanted to track. So first, we wanted to see as to what is the increase in the e-commerce sales. And that, as you have seen, is quite exploding across categories with the exception of apparel. Apparel also had that swing, those 3 days or maybe 2 days, 48 hours, where we saw a big swing because of, we believe, the stimulus checks really hitting the people. Then we sort of went into the conversion rates, and we are seeing the conversion rates across most categories sort of go up. The third part is probably the most interesting and encouraging part if you really go down deep into analyzing the trends and really sort of planning your marketing mix. That is the percentage of new shoppers. Now, every business person, every retailer, right, would understand and appreciate the importance of new shoppers or winning new shoppers. There is a reason why it is called new customer acquisition is a big thing. And there is the cost of new customer acquisition is a big sort of an area of the cost or of your P&L. We are seeing this is probably the best time in the last many years to really acquire new shoppers very profitably. Very interestingly, across categories, there were 2 age groups or age segments where we found were the fastest growing in terms of new shoppers. The first one was what was I would call it the Gen Z / almost into millennials, but more likely Gen Z, the 18 to 24. That was the fastest growing segment across categories, followed by 45 to 54, which is essentially Gen X. Now, what really happened something, and this is how I think the analysis needs to be done if you're really analyzing your shopper behavior. What happened is because a higher influx of the younger segment in the new shopper mix, the younger customers essentially spend lesser time between the first time landing on a website till making a purchase. We call this in purely marketing terms, the first purchase latency, right? Latency, the time between the first time someone landed on your website till the time the person actually completed the purchase. So we are seeing the new shoppers are using, first of all, mobile phone. And the second is they are purchasing quicker. So which is even more exciting because with the increase in that demographic now, not only can you convert at a higher rate, but you also are able to sort of convert these quicker. So the importance purely for marketers, as you would appreciate, is I think if you are able to segment out this group and really use very stronger, almost like a time period driven call to actions, you are going to sort of see your overall conversion rate impacted even more positively. Again, I'll be able to more than happy to address any questions at the end of the presentation. Now I wanted to move on. So we have talked about three things in terms of the e-commerce sales. What is the sales growth, the percentage new shopper growth, what segment do they belong to, and the conversion rate. Now let us look at how are marketers responding to it, and how is the search marketing industry responding to it. Now we have found that normally, I mean, Google ads are being used as a reference. The reason being, as all of you who are advertising on paid search really know, effectively it's an open auction marketplace, right? So essentially more players that are advertising for a particular keyword, they normally drive up the cost per clicks. If the players go down, they are obviously sort of the cost per click comes down. So let us see as to what has been the impact during of the pandemic on the cost per clicks. So this was probably, along with the increase in new shoppers, something which should be of interest for every retailer that is advertising on Google. uh, we are seeing the cost per clicks for most categories are in constant decline. If you look at it, apparel, we can understand because the conversions are not as much. So people are pulling back on their spend and they are spending less aggressively, bidding less aggressively. But look at food. Food until last period, whereby people started spending or increasing their spend cost per click, how much they were willing to spend on food, it had gone down to a record low of 40%. I think I mentioned during the 26th March presentation that we are not really seeing such low CPCs since 2007, 2008. 9-cent CPCs were unthinkable at that point in time. Food. I am pretty sure a lot of marketers have taken cognizance of this, and that is the reason more people are advertising now and more aggressively as well. As a result of which, as you can see, the overall it's still negative compared to, it's still, the click is still cheaper. It's still substantially cheaper, 18% cheaper compared to what it was last year, but it has gone up. But on the other hand, the other categories, interestingly, marketers have still not taken note. Gifting, it is down further. If you look at it, home furnishings, it has gone down even further. Home decor gone down even further. Home decor is a very attractive proposition at this time, with almost like the cost per clicks going at about 20% lower compared to what was last year at the same time. Pet supply is lower, but it has marginally gone up, but still about 7 to 8% lower. This one is interesting, hardware and tools, which is still about 8 to 10% lower cost per click. So this is a great time in terms of, one, you have the additional demand because of the higher conversion rate than new users. On the other hand, the cost per clicks are less. So which means that if a marketer is really very data focused, really looking into all the results and the key nuances, this is a great time to gain precious share of voice on Google. My last data slide essentially is, are marketers spending more? Are they really taking advantage of this situation where the cost per clicks have gone down, the conversion rates have gone up, and by how much? Again, shouldn't come as a surprise. The food industry, retailers definitely have increased the spend. In certain cases, it has gone up to 200%, almost 200%, 150 to 200%, I think is a fair range, 120 to 200%. Apparel, understandably, because the demand is not there, I think it makes sense to pull back on the budget. In gifting, interestingly, it has gone up, but as you can see, very marginally. There is, we believe, a lot of opportunity in all the other segments, and we are seeing retailers slowly increase their spend to take advantage of these lower cost per clicks across categories. But we believe over the next few weeks, still there would be an opportunity for a lot of businesses to spend more and really win that customer for a tremendously strong ROI. But the question is, how many marketers are really looking at the real data, or are they just sort of floating around in the assumptions? So this, I think, is the opportunity which I really want to present to you, and our data is sort of essentially completely backing it up. So I'll just end with a quick summary before I move on to our Q&A session with Kaki. The summary, the first is, obviously, as we have all seen, the most retail categories are experiencing a tremendous double-digit online sales growth. We are seeing that this is being driven by two factors. One is an increase in the new shoppers, as well as higher conversion rates, which are driving this online sales growth. Low Google Ads CPCs across categories coupled with high conversion rate is obviously leading to a profitable growth. This is a great time. I keep on repeating this, for data-driven, nimble digital marketers to gain a lot of valuable market share relatively inexpensively. So that's what I had. We'll be more than happy to take the questions. But for now, I have really tremendous privilege to introduce a good friend, a client since about 6 years now, and a tremendous inspiration when it comes to entrepreneurship and really redefining as to how the apparel industry is by identifying an opportunity. I have tremendous pleasure. Please sort of join me in welcoming Kaki Zell. She is the co-owner and the vice president of Ames Walker. Kaki, welcome on the behalf of the entire NetElixir community.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, Kaki. Kaki, why don't you start by just introducing to everyone, we have, I think, about 125 folks join us on this thing. If you can do a quick introduction about yourself and the company, that will be great.
Certainly. Well, I'm Kaki Zell, and my husband and I bought Ames Walker 10 years ago now. So Ames Walker was founded 25 years ago in 1995 and was the first online provider of medical compression garments, which is pretty incredible to think about. They launched their first website in 1998, which was early on, especially for a graduated compression company to enter the .com market. We currently still have the most recognized private label graduated compression hosiery brand in the U.S. market with our Ames Walker brand. We also distribute many other well-known national brands of hosiery and other lighter medical supplies, but our main focus has been up till now on our compression socks and hosiery. We're a small family-owned business. We operate in B2B and B2C markets. We've been, as you mentioned, a client since 2014 and work closely with Tausif and our wonderful team over there on many of our digital marketing efforts.
Thank you. Welcome again, Kaki, from all of us. So my first question to you is, obviously this outbreak has really disrupted everyone's life, right? What are some of the challenges that you had to deal with when the pandemic sort of really struck Ames Walker's business? And how were you able to deal with these challenges or adapt to these challenges? And can you really share some of the insights in terms of the challenges you faced and how you were able to or tried to adapt to this new normal almost?
Right. I think it's important right now that we all kind of adjust to the new normal as opposed to, dealing with what's going on. I think it's the perfect time to be agile and be able to shift your focus and change your plans a little bit. So as many of you have experienced, I as well am running a business and have a sixth grader homeschooling. So that's been a little bit of a roller coaster, all taking place in my dining room, essentially. Sometimes fun, being able to be a little bit more involved with his work. So I've had to adjust to that. I've had to adjust, I'd say, to a different type of worry as a business owner, not only about our family safety, but our staff and our customers, which are the most threatened demographic in this pandemic. As a business, we have transitioned some of our efforts to be able to provide fulfillment for other companies, which we had never done before. But since we're an essential business, we're able to keep warehouse staff shipping and packing orders. And so we've been able to help other companies that can't do that get orders out the door as well and do some fulfillment with them. We have, again, like I said, we have a critical team in our office that's able to pick, pack, pull, ship orders. We have shifted our resources, as you all know by now, to producing and selling masks. It was a high demand for our customers, again, in that older demographic. But we've also been working closely with the military and the VA hospital systems to get them protective masks that they need. We've had a lot of requests come in through those contracts that we have. We were fortunate, I'd say, to have the robust systems in place to be able to transition to a work from home workforce early on. We, very early in this, sent most of our employees home with their computers. We were able to keep our call center working from their homes and still monitor that. So we were happy to do that early on before even stay-at-home orders were in effect. As for the impact on our business, as you mentioned, we've definitely seen some declines in parts of our business, specifically with our B2B side has been a little bit more affected, with people going on routine doctor visits less often. We've seen a decline in kind of where we distribute through the vein clinic and doctor office channels. We have seen a decline in sales on the B2C side. It was less drastic, but still very real. I think first couple weeks was kind of shocking to watch it happen. Our demographic is older, 65 plus heavily. And so, with retirement and the market uncertainty, they're a little more reluctant to spend money right now, I think. We do see some trends as the news changes daily. And as you mentioned before, with some checks coming in and some changes, in the financial market, but I'm sure a lot of retailers are seeing that as well.
Right. Thank you, Kaki. Now, this is really interesting. So the company pivoted into sort of making protective masks. How did this idea originate, and what were some of the struggles? Because it's easier said than done, right? I mean, suddenly you're trying to completely change. That means changing probably the manufacturing capability, the delivery capability, and a lot of other things. So how did this idea really start, and what were some of the challenges that you really had to encounter, and how successful have you been at the end of it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My husband, who I own the business with, is actually sitting next to me right now. A question that I know he was hoping would come up on this call, because he's told me I told you so many times throughout this. But
hi,
early
Ryan,
on,
from all of us.
Hey,
Sorry,
how are you guys?
Hi.
So early on, I'm sure everyone will recall that the news was consistently reporting no face masks don't work, they're not necessary, on and on and on. And so very early, he came to me and said, we need to transition some of our machines to making masks. And I sort of laughed it off and thought he was a little bit crazy at the time. We had always been, I think my concern was we had always been a company selling kind of the light medical products with a very good reputation in the space. We've always had the motto that our customers are first, and we truly take a lot of pride in our customer service. So I didn't want to disappoint anyone as well. So I was a little more cautious, with masks and them being perceived as more of a medical use. I was a little bit worried about us pulling away from our core competencies. That being said, as we all know, the news changes daily. It became more evident that there was a growing need amongst especially our consumer base and our demographic, and they were asking for it, for these personal protective products. And the fact that they were going to become probably a part of our new normal, and that finding these products, given the extreme demand, was going to be harder and harder to find. So fortunately, he had kind of pressed on, and we had started pretty early going through the R&D of making masks and transitioning a couple sock machines into knitting those masks. And we're able to, once the surge of need really hit, we were able to turn that over pretty quickly and get them out to our customers. I'd say operationally, some of the struggles we encountered centered around really that whole manufacturing piece, going from making socks to making something we had never made before on those same exact machines. Again, as I mentioned, moving our whole customer service and admin staff to work from home was a little less trying with the infrastructure that we had in place. But I'd say we're still evolving every day. We're evolving the masks to make them better, evolving our policies at work to make everyone safer. I think in the past 3 days, I've had 3 different versions of our mask come to me, and looking at ways that we can improve them and change colors and do different things with them.
Wow, this is so inspiring, Kaki. So what's the capacity? How many masks are you able to produce now, let us say every week or every month?
We're able to produce surprisingly over 1 million masks per week.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, so we're able to get the needs there, and we hope to get them into people's hands who need them.
No, I know Ames Walker had a long pedigree and a history sort of being in the medical equipment industry to an extent, right? So tell me, I mean, how were you able to bring in some of these, and what makes really Ames Walker's protective masks really unique from the other masks which are available in the market?
Our masks are made from a very soft polyester nylon yarns. They are double layered, double ply. What I think makes them really cool is, if you can call a mask cool, is they are treated with a biocompatible, hydrophobic, splash-resistant finish. It helps repel molecules and liquids and oils. It's really pretty cool. Earlier today, I was pouring water on one of mine just to see it. The water literally beads up and rolls off and repels off the mask, so it doesn't absorb into the mask. So I think that makes them pretty special. They are made in a ISO certified medical device facility. And again, in the spirit of adapting to this ever-changing time, we're still tweaking and perfecting quality almost weekly based on feedback from our customers, and we've also sent some off to Utah for some more extensive biochemical testing, and we're hoping to get some of those results back either tomorrow or early next week.
Fascinating, Kaki. Fascinating. Now, we all know, I mean, since we have been your agency for 6 years now, we know that Ames Walker's, the core demographic of customers is essentially an older demographic, right? So we are seeing a massive surge in this, the younger population. So have you made any tweaks in your marketing strategy to attract the younger demographic, or how have you really addressed completely really speaking with or addressing or targeting a brand new demographic, which is a lot younger?
Right. I think for all retailers, there's a real opportunity right now to gain the trust of new customers, as you were talking a little bit about earlier. The younger demographic is certainly a new demographic for us. We've always wanted that demographic. We've always tried to tout the preventative aspects of wearing compression socks and hosiery, but we've always struggled to convince that demographic. We sometimes say that, compression hosiery is like anti-aging cream for your legs. It can prevent, spider veins and lots of bulging vein, things that you're going to experience later in life. You can prevent them by starting to wear compression socks earlier. And compression socks have come a long way. They're not, your grandma's stockings anymore. There's cool patterns, argyle colors, purples. But again, we've always kind of struggled with that market. If we can gain their trust though now, I think there's a real opportunity to be able to convince them to transition them into that kind of compression sock world a little bit later on once we get through this. But throughout the pandemic, my marketing team, along with Tausif and the team at NetElixir, have been quick to rethink the way we've traditionally marketed. And we face some restrictions with Google and Amazon with the masks. We're having a hard time getting some approvals. We desperately want to get the word out to new customers. We've relied heavily so far on our existing customers through some of our more traditional digital methods. But in response, we shifted some funds from our model had been kind of pay-per-click heavy to get new customers prior to this. But now we've transitioned some of those funds into more Facebook and Instagram ads, more social targeting, and then some retargeting through Criteo to reach that younger demographic and to kind of spread the net, if you will. And so hopefully we'll be able to get them to come and buy masks and trust us there, and then maybe we can convince them that compression socks are kind of cool too.
Fantastic. My last question and the final question to you, Kaki, and this has been incredible. And any questions for Kaki, please feel free to add them to the overall message and the Q&A part. My question would be, understandably, such a transition within such a short period of time, obviously you would really have learned a lot. There would have been a lot of lessons. What are some of the key lessons, and what would your advice be, especially for the retail marketers in the apparel industry? As we have seen, the numbers I sort of shared earlier in this presentation, the apparel industry is under real sort of threat. So what would be some of the lessons that you have learned, and any piece of advice for the apparel marketers out there in the audience today?
Yeah, I think a lesson that we learned early on was that we wish we would have reacted a little quicker. We did react very quickly, I will say. I think that as a small family business, we have the ability to adapt quickly and kind of change our course. But I think the first couple of weeks for every retailer was kind of like mouth wide open, what's happening, watching the numbers each day. So after that, shock wore off, we were able to change pretty quick. I think we've learned a lot about the strength and dedication. I mean, I know of our employees. I'm grateful for them. They've been in great spirits. They're all working full time, and so we've been able to maintain that, which has been great. But also, I think the strength of the whole country, the whole world for that matter. I mean, from the frontline healthcare workers and supply chain manufacturers, government leaders. I think, I was telling you a couple days ago, it's been amazing to just watch everyone kind of come together and try and help each other and be good change. I think it's really incredible to see, especially right now in a election year where we typically see a lot of friction. We're seeing a lot of people just come together, and my advice to other retail marketers would be to act fast and be able to adapt to change, be agile. Don't put on your blinders and think this is, compression socks and hosiery was everything that we always did, right? Like we were in a tunnel zone there, but you have to kind of take off the blinders and open up your vision a little bit. Make sure you have backup plans. I think it's really important right now. There is a real threat. So, we're constantly looking at our supply chain. We are doing everything we possibly can to keep our employees who are working safe, they're in masks, they're in gloves. We've got chemicals that we're spraying everything down with in our warehouse. So making sure you have those plans in place, but also, if there's a supply chain issue with, someone gets sick in a manufacturing plant. We've seen a lot of that on the news this week. Just make sure you have a backup option so that there's no disruption in your supply. And I think that, like I said, we've always been most knowledgeable about compression socks and hosiery, but who's to say this isn't a new opportunity for a new best for us, something that we'll continue doing.
That's fabulous. I think that's a very powerful message, Kaki. I think in many cases, the biggest friction is for people to take the first step and really not acknowledge and adapt to the new normal, right? I think what you have done is quite incredible. Not only adapt, but adapt very quickly. And then you made a statement that who knows, maybe this is the new normal moving forward, right? So, effectively leading the consumer demand, lead your way as a business of the growth. This is phenomenal, Kaki. Thank you very much. And again, on behalf of the entire community, I'm pretty sure there will be some questions for you, but thank you again from the entire community. Heather, I'll sort of pass it on to you for just the last couple of slides, and then we'll get into the Q&A.
All right, thank you, Kaki. That was a very powerful story, and I look forward to seeing how your new line of protective masks continues to grow and develop. While everyone submits their questions via the chat box or the Q&A button, I wanted to present some special offers and new initiatives that we have. Kaki was gracious to share a special site-wide discount code for Ames Walker's protective mask. Again, these masks are medically approved for up to 30 washes with free standard shipping available. So you can place your order at ameswalker.com, and at checkout, be sure to use promo code SMILE15AW. I would like to next remind everyone to subscribe to our blogs that are being released every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can go to NetElixir.com/blogs and subscribe for the latest retail analysis updates. Next, we have a special initiative on behalf of NetElixir. Surviving this pandemic requires not just a razor focus on your business and industry, but also on the various external factors that are likely to have an influence. Since 2013, NetElixir's goal has been to bridge the gap between academia and industry. To accomplish that goal, we created the X Equal Experience event, which we host each year in our historic hometown of Princeton, New Jersey. This year's 8th annual live event takes place on October 2020. But today, we are excited to present a new thought leadership series under the X Equal Experience Thought Leadership brand that has world-class thought leadership speaking, sharing their insights, opinions, and strategies to help you think through this crisis and come out of it stronger. So for our first X Equal Experience Expert Series, we'll be welcoming for our first speaker, Professor Anandu Ghosh of NYU Stern School of Business. Professor Gose has extensive experience working with global corporations, and his area of work is AI, data, and innovation. You can sign up for this thought-provoking webinar using the link you see below, netelixir.com/experience. And then last but not least, if you guys have any questions at any time, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Our team of experts is here to help you. So you can submit any of your questions at shareinsights@netelixir.com. All right, so we're gonna move on to your questions. Udayan, the first question is for you. Where do you see the greatest opportunity for marketers to invest in ad spend?
I think overall we are seeing that there is a significant demand which has been built up, as we have seen in the conversion rates, and also we are heather seeing that in many cases, just because of pulled back ad spend, essentially the costs are fairly affordable, a lot more affordable compared to what they were just about a year back. So this presents an opportunity for most paid media. While we talked today about the Google ads and the Bing ads followed the suit as well. So search engines, I think, are a very attractive option. Then we have obviously paid incredibly well. Overall, the paid social, the return on investment that we are getting, and I think Kaki sort of mentioned it as well during her session. Those are some of the unheard numbers in terms of return on investment, etc. So I would say paid social as well. And last but not the least, we obviously have the Amazon ads. Now, Amazon ads is again very powerful, which sort of gets to be taken. But I think it's just that those are three very powerful channels. The last but not the least, something to keep in mind, we are seeing a very fast growth of TikTok as well. The TikTok video specifically in times like this, probably because people are spending a lot of time in front of their screens and so on. So TikTok usage has gone up. That's almost like a new kid on the block, which I would request the marketers to be cognizant of. And of course, there is the standard, the second largest search engine in the world is actually YouTube. So YouTube's time overall for the audience also has gone up quite substantially. So this is a great time because really you can really buy a lot of media for very less. So all of those I think are very attractive options, Heather.
All right, thank you, Udayan. So I see a lot of people asking about the promo code for the face mask. Just a quick reminder, you go to ameswalker.com.
Yeah, let me go back actually, Heather, to that slide as well. Yeah.
Yep. And you could just use promo code SMILE15AW. We'll be also sending out the whole presentation with all this information tomorrow at 11. But Kaki, I'm going to move to you for a question. So Kaki, are you satisfied with just domestic demand for the mask? Or have you been approached by global customers in the need of these items and to increase their stockpiles for future?
Sure. And real quick on the discount code for the masks, that's great for individual purchasers. If there's anyone who's listening today who has a larger wholesale need, reach out to me directly. I don't know if my email address is anywhere on any of this, but is kzell@ameswalker.com. If you have any larger wholesale needs, we can work with you on those. And then back to the question, we have heavily distributed these within the US, but we do have customers outside of the US, large customers that do distribution in other countries that we have been approached by. I'm not sure, have we sold any to them yet? We have not shipped any yet, but we've been approached and we certainly have the capabilities to distribute worldwide. Right now, it's been mainly in the US.
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. I have time for one more question. So we'll give this question over to you, Dane. What are your thoughts on the ongoing trends on food? What type of growth do you anticipate after the pandemic is over?
That's a great question. That's a difficult question, I must say that. I think in terms of trends of food, there are certain factors you really have to keep in mind. The first one, the most important one, is people are spending a lot more time at home with their families. Right. So on an average, typically, and in fact, our first guest, the webinar on the 26th of March, we had the head of grocery for Wakefern Food Corporation, which is America's largest food cooperative. And he sort of runs the grocery for ShopRite and so on. So he was mentioning that 50%, at least in the Northeast, let us say the greater New York area, of the folks, of all the meals are consumed at restaurants or outside of home. Now that 50% is happening inside the home. Obviously, the takeouts have progressively gone up, but still, I think that's a massive surge in demand which is directly, as you see, those 583% increases were significantly led by that. That's I think one. And that somehow, unless and until there is there is either a vaccine or a medicine which comes out, which seems to be will probably take a little more time. I think the food demand would still be a lot higher because a lot of people would still prefer to sort of eat at home. That's I think the first one. The second part, I think, is a fundamental thing which should be of interest for all the retailers. This time, because let us say you sort of purchase something once, you don't really form a habit. But if you purchase it 10 times over the span of 3 months, you tend to really build a habit. So a lot of the people who have really historically shopped from stores, they have migrated online. And they probably, for many of them, the habit may have already gotten formed. So as a result of that would really add to this. So I would, again, it's difficult to make a prediction, as I mentioned, because of those wild swings in terms of every day, the overall trends and so on. But it would be fair to say that the overall food consumption after the pandemic should still be substantially at a higher percentage on a year-on-year basis. Probably a triple-digit percentage still continues, or at least a high double-digit percentage growth would still continue way after the pandemic, primarily because more people are eating at home or more meals are being consumed at home. And secondly, some online consumer behavior has fundamentally changed. And I think a lot of that would continue for a much longer time. So I would think high double-digit, or if not, maybe a triple-digit percentage growth on a year-on-year basis would be my best guess. I can't predict anything, but I think probably would be my best guess.
All right, perfect. Thank you again so much, Kaki and Udayan. The presentation was great. And I'll be sending an email out tomorrow to all of our attendees, so you'll get a copy of the presentation. Right after we end this webinar, there's a quick survey that pops up. So I'd really appreciate it if you can fill out the survey. And any questions that we were unable to answer, please feel free to submit them there, and I'll be sure to get back to you within 24 hours. So thank you again, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks a lot, Kaki, and thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks so much.